I'm going to ask some questions now. I'll turn it to Senator Capito for her questions, and we'll hear from some of our other colleagues. I don't ask a lot of yes or no questions, Mr. Shaw. I'm going to ask a few today, and I just ask you to answer them. We'll keep it short and just answer yes or no if you can. When I think about the train derailment and chemical disaster that continues to impact the people of East Palestine and surrounding communities, I can't help but think, what if this happened in my neighborhood to my own family? We have fairly heavy freight train travel throughout northern Delaware, and our communities are used to seeing those trains move throughout our state. What if there were burning toxic trains outside of our window in our community, damaging our air, our water, and possibly making my family and our neighbors sick? What if this disaster lowered the value of our home, our business, and I worked my whole life to build, and I'd be honest, I'd be furious, and I think most of us would be, and we'd want to make sure that Norfolk Southern took action to make our families and our communities whole. My first question is to you are just simple yes or no questions. I got 3 of them, and I think the Americans, if they were here, if they get them all in this room, a lot of them would ask the same questions if this happened in their towns. Yes or no, will you commit that Norfolk Southern will be there for as long as it takes to make East Palestine, Ohio, Darlington Township in Pennsylvania, and the surrounding communities whole from this disaster? Yes or no?
Senator, thank you for that question. I understand that concern. That's the same concern that is shared with me by the residents of East Palestine and Darlington Township. I'm terribly sorry for the impact this derailment has had on the folks of that community. And yes, it's my personal commitment and Norfolk Southern's commitment that we're going to be there for as long as it takes to help East Palestine thrive and recover. That's my personal commitment.
I take that as a yes. Thank you. That's the answer I was looking for. Next question. Will you commit that Norfolk Southern will compensate the people in these communities for possible long-term medical costs and economic damages resulting from this disaster? Yes or no, please.
Senator, we're committed to doing what's right for the folks of East Palestine and the community. That's been my personal commitment since the day after this happened. I pulled my team together and I told my team, we are going to do more than less with the environmental cleanup, and we're going to do more than less with the citizens of East Palestine.
And my third question is, yes or no, will you commit to paying for long-term medical testing for people in the impacted communities to ensure that anyone with known or suspected exposure to dangerous chemicals due to this disaster is monitored for adverse health effects? Yes or no?
Senator, I'm committed to doing what's right. You know, we're going to be there today, tomorrow, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I've told the community that. I've been there in person. I've looked into their eyes. I've heard their concerns. I've been in their family rooms. I'm committed to that community, and so is Norfolk Southern.
All right, thank you for that. My second question would be for Administrator Shore. I commend EPA. I want to commend its employees and leadership for being in East Palestine, and at least for the rank and file to be there within hours of the accident, and for the hard work that you and others have been doing every day since then to get the contamination cleaned up. I also commend EPA for continuing to listen and respond to the community's concerns, including adapting the monitoring and sampling to ensure that any adverse environmental impacts and possible significant health effects from this disaster are known and addressed. Administrator Regan's level of personal involvement here is, I believe, unprecedented in anything that I've seen in my experience. My question. So I think I know the answer, but I will ask you the same thing I asked Mr. Shaw, and that is, do you commit that EPA will be there for as long as it takes to protect the public health and environment of the impacted communities?
Thank you, Senator Carper. Yes, EPA is committed to continue to work with our partners in the community and make sure they have the support that they need and deserve. EPA will be on the ground as long as it takes.
All right, thank you. My last question that I will ask is to Director Vogel, to you and to Mr. Brewer. Before this hearing, I had the opportunity to speak with several of the officials involved in the response to this incident, including governors of Ohio and Pennsylvania. Governor Shapiro shared with me a letter they had sent to Norfolk Southern on February 14, 2023. The letter asserts that Norfolk Southern did not communicate well with state and local agencies in the early days of the response, which led to confusion as well as concerns that alternative options for safely removing the chemicals were not adequately considered. In your experience, did you receive the information that you needed from Norfolk Southern to adequately make decisions relating to protecting public health and safety? Were there any gaps in communications from Norfolk Southern to responding agencies in the first 72 hours of the derailment that may have contributed to distrust within the impacted communities? And if so, has Norfolk Southern satisfactorily addressed any such communications gaps since that time? Ms. Vogel.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for your question. I do believe there were quite a few gaps in communication and missteps in the very early hours of following the derailment. I do believe that those gaps in communications have been addressed. I believe the teams are working well together on the ground today. But yes, things could have been handled better in the beginning hours.
All right, thank you. Mr. Brewer, same question. Were there any gaps in communications from Norfolk Southern to responding agencies in the first 72 hours or so of the derailment that may have contributed to distress within the impacted communities? And if so, has Norfolk Southern satisfactorily addressed such communications gaps since that time?
Thank you. The boots on the ground crews were great to work with. It seems as bosses or management gets there, that's where the communication failures start. And that's probably why we're here today. The decision to go from the 1 tank car to the 5 was jaw-dropping. And that impact, just because of the impact it had. Since then, they did seem to get better, though.
All right, thank you.